Okay, so today we're going to be talking about The Emperor's Soul. And this is going to be a spoiler-free review of basically why you should read this book. Alright, so to start off with The Emperor's Soul, it is part of the Cosmere, Brandon Sanderson's connected universe of all his Cosmere stories. It's a novella coming in at about 170 pages, super short, easy read, quick to get through. It's not a, 1,000-page tome like Way of Kings or something like that. It takes place on the same world as Elantris, but you do not need to read Elantris in order to read The Emperor's Soul. So if you're looking for a short entry into the Cosmere, this is a great book to start off with because you don't need to read Elantris, you don't need to read any of the Cosmere. You can just jump straight into this. It stands all by itself and is a wonderful read. So what is the story even about? So in this book we are following Shay, who is a forger, which means she can use a type of magic that actually rewrites the history of objects when you stamp them. So if you have a old rough table that's in disarray, you can stamp it with a new history where it was made by a master craftsman and was well taken care of, and the table will actually change to reflect that past. So now it's a beautiful table, well maintained. It's a really, really interesting magic system, which Brandon Sanderson is really known for. So no surprise there. But this one is interesting even in the Cosmere world. And one of the things that makes it, I think, even more interesting is you have to, one, really know the history of an object. So you have to know what the actual history was in order to change the history of it. And then you have to change it in a way that's plausible. So you can't tell the table that it's now a rock. It won't work that dramatically. It has to be plausible. So those limitations on it, I think, are really, really interesting. Now, when we meet up with Shay in this book, at the very beginning, she is actually already in prison. So she has been betrayed by her partner, who's run off with what they were after to steal, because she's also a thief. And we catch up to her in this cell awaiting her execution, because the current kingdom that she is in sees forgery, the kind of magic she does, as an absolute atrocity. It is forbidden, and just there's nothing worse than doing that kind of thing. But lucky for Shay, kind of, a few days before she's set to be executed, the king of that country is caught up in an assassination attempt. And while they're able to save the king, he's left in a comatose state. He's awake, but no one's home, just completely blank mind. So they tried to get Shay to rewrite his history, to stamp him, which is a soul stamp, and is even worse than the regular forging in the eyes of the religious people of this kingdom. So one, it's a very, very difficult thing to do, and two, Shay is pretty much under assumption that they're not going to want any loose ends when this is done, so she suspects she's probably still in a lot of danger. And of course, because it's such a taboo, it has to be done in secret, so that's the setting that we're in this book, is basically Shay in a room working on this problem. And so here, your scope, your world building is super narrow in this, and that really draws the focus from the world building to character. And if you know me, I love a good character development story. This has so much good just depth to the characters, and there's very few characters. There's only one setting, really. But the relationship between the characters, how they evolve over this extremely short novel, it's really, really well done. And the relationship she builds with one of her captors, who is like as opposite of her as can possibly be, but because they have so much interaction and so much interest in the same thing, they build this kind of rapport that is just so believable and just tangible. You can feel the connection between them. That kind of writing just is right up my alley. So I thoroughly enjoyed reading this book. And Brandon Sanderson really manages to play with some complex themes in this very small novella. When you're rewriting an object's history, like with the Emperor, if it's a new soul, is Even if it's a copy of the old soul, is it still the Emperor or is it a different person? If you make a perfect copy of a masterpiece, is the copy also a masterpiece? Then what is the difference? What makes one a masterpiece and one a forgery? Those sort of questions are explored and from different, extremely different viewpoints in this novel, and it's never really, concluded which one's correct. It's up to the reader to kind of form their own opinion. And it's just, I can't say enough good things about this book. If you haven't read it, even if you're not a Cosmere fan, I recommend you go read this book. You can get it on its own. They did do a run of this as a standalone novella, but you can also get this as part of Arcanum Unbound, which is, if you are a Cosmere fan, a book you should have, because it has this and so many other small stories all set in the Cosmere. And it's a great deal for one, and two, you get a lot of little insights into different magic systems, different planets, what the gods doing, etc, etc, etc. It's good stuff. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, share this, all that fun stuff, and I will see you guys in the next one.